Hello there, Grace family. My name is Tristan, and I have the privilege of serving on the team here at Grace, and it is my unbelievable honor to share with you for just a few moments this morning on Grace Notes. And I want to talk to you a little bit today about what it looks like when life takes us on a detour. See, we're filming this right now. I'm talking to you from something that we're all very aware is going on from the middle of a global pandemic. And I think if you would have asked literally anyone on earth at the beginning of the year what they thought 2020 was going to look like, it would look nothing like what we're currently experiencing. Rumors of wars, wildfires. I'm pretty sure all of Australia was on fire at one point. A global pandemic, an economic crash, murder hornets. I mean, come on. If you would have picked any one of those things at the beginning of the year and expected it to happen, you would have been looked at like you were crazy. But what if you would have picked all of them? You know, life has taken us in 2020 on a path that we never would have expected. And sometimes life does that just for us as individuals. And I want to talk to you a little bit today about what it looks like when life takes us on a detour, when we go on an unexpected journey. And I want to use something that happens in the book of Mark, chapter 5, when Jesus meets a man named Jairus. See, Jairus was a synagogue leader in the area, and his daughter was very sick. They were afraid that she was going to die. And Jairus had heard what Jesus had done for any number of people, or for many numbers of people, bringing them healing, bringing them miracles, doing all these signs and wonders. And Jairus wanted a little bit of that in his own life and in the life of his daughter. So Jairus goes and he seeks out, he calls him the teacher. He goes and seeks out the teacher, Jesus, in order to bring him back to his house and to have a miracle in the life of his daughter. And Jesus meets Jairus and immediately agrees to go with him. And while they're on their way, a huge crowd gathers around Jesus. And they all begin pressing into him and talking to him. And Jesus kind of begins to take his time and is talking with individuals. He's socializing with the group. And at this point, a woman who was in the crowd, who had been sick for 12 years, no doctors could help her. She had sold everything that she owned in order to pay for treatment. Nobody could help her. Nobody could heal her. Nothing could stop the sickness that she had been experiencing except for Jesus. And she eventually presses into the crowd. She weasels kind of through everyone. They definitely were not social distancing in those days. And she gets up and she touches the hem of Jesus's cloak. And immediately, the Bible says, immediately she was healed. Now, Jesus stops again, everything that he's doing, and he asks his disciples, who touched me, who took healing power from me? And he eventually finds that it was the woman. And he looks at her in the face and he says, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. Now, remember, the only reason that Jesus was in that position was because he was on the way to heal Jairus' daughter. Well, the moment that he heals this woman, some of Jairus' servants come up and they find him in the crowd and they say, your daughter has died. You don't need to bother the teacher. You don't need to bother Jesus anymore. It's over. And at that moment, Jesus looked at Jairus. He looked him deep in the eyes and he said, don't be afraid, just believe. See, there are some very important things I believe we can learn in this story about what life looks like when life itself just takes us on a detour. And the first thing I think we all need to focus on in this is that Jesus is always moving. See, when Jairus initially found Jesus, the Bible says that Jesus immediately went with him. He immediately dropped what he was doing and began going with Jairus. Now imagine yourself in Jairus' shoes here. Imagine yourself as someone, you're worried, your daughter is sick, someone close to you is dying, and you're trying to find healing. And you go and you find what you believe is the source of healing, and they immediately go with you. I can imagine Jairus just being so excited, being thrilled that, oh man, my daughter's going to be saved. Jesus is going with me. He's moving. We're going to get this taken care of. Only a few moments later to see Jesus kind of slow down and seemingly get preoccupied with other people and start talking with another group of people. And I'm just picturing Jairus the whole time kind of like tugging on Jesus like, hey, this is great, but let's go. Like, these people are still going to be here. We need to heal my daughter. And then Jesus stops and takes the time to heal someone else. And the moment that he heals the woman who was sick, Jairus' daughter dies. Can you imagine being in Jairus' shoes and looking at that and saying, she got my miracle. That was what I wanted, yet you gave it to her. So oftentimes, in times where life takes us on a detour, it's easy to look at other people and say, that's what I want. God, why are you doing it for them and not for me? Why are they getting my miracle? But the important thing to remember in this is that Jesus never would have been able to heal that woman if he wasn't already on the way to Jairus' house. See, we have to believe and we have to trust that Jesus is always moving, because sometimes he's moving in our lives just so he can move in someone else's. The entire reason why Jesus was moving slow through that crowd was so that the woman who was sick could catch up to him. And the only reason she could catch up to him was because he was on the way to heal Jairus' daughter. And even though Jairus thought that the miracle was gone, that everything was over, Jesus looked him in the face and he said, "Don't be afraid, just believe." See, the story goes on, and Jesus eventually gets to Jairus' house, and all the people are telling him, "Hey, the girl is dead. You don't need to be here." And he says, "She's not dead. She's just asleep." And everyone starts making fun of him. Everyone starts giving him a hard time. And so he kicks everyone out of the house, and he takes up Peter, James, and John, and then the girl's parents. And he walks up into the room. He grabs her by the hand, and he says, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." And she immediately gets up and starts walking around the room. See, Jairus thought that the miracle was over. He thought that the woman who was sick in the crowd got the miracle that he was supposed to get. But he forgot the second thing that I want to challenge all of us to remember. And that's not only that Jesus is always moving, but that's that Jesus is always faithful. Jesus will always do what he says he's going to do. See, when Jairus came up to Jesus in the beginning and said, "My girl is sick, I need you to come and save her." When Jesus started walking with him, that girl was already saved. Jesus was on his way to save her. It didn't matter if it took a day, 3 days. In the story of Lazarus earlier in the Bible, if it takes 4 days or more, Jesus was already on his way to heal this girl. He had already given the promise to Jairus just by going with him that he was going to raise her from the dead. And yet Jairus was so upset and so angry and so frustrated that it took a little longer than he expected. But that's because he forgot that Jesus is always faithful. See, God may not work on our timelines according to our will, according to what we want done, but he always works according to his promises. So no matter where you are right now, whether this pandemic has forced you to be furloughed or laid off entirely, whether you're trying to juggle working from home or working from an office and leading your kid through school right now, because you're all homeschoolers. I don't know how you're doing it. Whether you are fighting issues in your marriage, fighting issues in your family, whatever it looks like right now, whatever detour it feels like life has started on since we started this year, remember this. The purpose of a detour is not to go to a different place. It's to get you to the same place from a different route. Because detours always end up where they're supposed to go. See, Jesus took Jairus on a detour so that he could heal the woman who was sick. But he still ended up at Jairus' house. He still ended up giving Jairus the miracle that he wanted. And he still ended up moving and being faithful. So as you go through this week, church family, I want to remind you, always remember that no matter what's going on, Jesus is always moving and Jesus is always faithful. We love you, church family. See you soon.